What has happened? What have you seen happening? You also were a supporter of Liz Truss. Did you think we'd be here in such a short space of time?
Well, good morning, first of all.
Thought I'd get straight into there, Tim. None of this stalling for time with the good morning.
We survived another day, the Conservative Party. Look, I did vote for Liz Truss in the final round. She wasn't my preference in the early rounds, but putting that aside, I think what David Davis has just said is absolutely right. You know, the Tory party is somewhat obsessed with Margaret Thatcher. We're always comparing our leaders to Mrs Thatcher. But
she actually tried to compare herself with Margaret Thatcher.
Well, she did.
With all the photo shoots.
But what David Davis said was absolutely right. Mrs Thatcher she had a bold vision for the country, but she did deliver it over 10 years. She didn't try and do it all at once. And actually, she was very incremental. She planned her measures very carefully. And I think that's really what the problem was with Liz Truss's mini-budget. And we should call it Liz Truss's mini-budget. She may want to blame Kwasi Kwarteng for it, but she was the co-author of it as much as he was. The measures were all put out there far too late. The institutions of the state, including the Office of Budget Responsibility, weren't involved, and that's why we're partly in the mess that we are.
Frank, I just wondered, obviously you run a business organisation. What do your members make of the sacking of Kwasi Kwarteng and the hiring of Jeremy Hunt? Are they happy with that, or are they more panicky than ever?
I think it's frustration from the business community now, Philip. You know, we've had so many years of being switched on and off as an economy. You know, we've had conversations before about the government's approach to lockdown. I think they locked down too late and then locked down too long. I think if you look at some of the packages that were put in place then, we've not had a mature conversation as to how we're going to pay that debt back. And I think it was refreshing this morning, actually, to hear the new Chancellor. Can you describe Kwasi Kwarteng as the old Chancellor? But anyway, Jeremy Hunt, the new Chancellor, trying to have at least a grown-up conversation with us to say, look, all this money's being spent, guys. At some point, it does need to be paid back. And I do think that Liz Truss and the Conservative membership saw this panacea that just can't happen at the moment. I thought the great phrase from David Davis this morning was strategically bold but tactically cautious. And that was Margaret Thatcher. I think he would also give credit to Tony Blair similarly for that sort of approach. But you do have to ask yourself now, and I think the business community is asking itself this question, is the Conservative Party itself now ungovernable? Because David Davis just thrown 3 names in the hat in terms of potential leaders. Can you coalesce against a single candidate? Because he's quite right. What would not be acceptable to anybody in the country would be another 3-month or even 6-week leadership election campaign. So unless you lot can come together and decide that there's an individual who you can unite behind and get behind a policy agenda, I don't see how this ends other than crashing and burning for you.